covering how to do streaking effects using the AK streaking range. And we're also going to be doing a few minor things with weathering powders prior to the next tutorial, which will pretty much solely deal with the weathering powders. So to start out with, the first things I want to do today are these Chaos Stars here and this spare track link. These are going to get painted up and put on the tank because we're going to be streaking off these different items with our rust effects later on. So the first thing I've done is I've placed some Secret Weapon Rust Orange, Rust Red and Dark Earth into my palette here, as well as a little bit of water to mix with them. And what I'm going to do is just create some very thin mixtures of varying colour tones. And then I'm going to apply them to this track link. Doesn't need to be anything crazy, just a bit of a mix of colours from all around. The reason why we're going so diluted with the weathering powder is we just want to build up the effect slowly. I don't want to go overpowering too fast. This way I can come back to it. This is probably the simplest way you can apply weathering powders. It's not flash, it's not fancy. You don't need to seal them. I still advise sealing them, however, later on. Just with a spray coat of varnish should do the trick. The reason I'm using these different coloured weathering powders is because once they're dry, they'll actually form a mottling of different colours, specifically those darker colours and lighter colours. Just waiting for these to dry a little bit, and once they're dry we'll come back and we'll do a little bit more of this. Alright, now that first layer is done, I'm just mixing a little more rust orange into my palette here. I'm going to apply that just gently, and this will give us some lighter, more orangey patches to help with the rusting effect. The reason I'm doing this is just to help break up the sort of bland nature of just the red pattern. You don't want to cover the entire thing in it, you just want to put dribs and drabs evenly all the way around. Alright, while that's drying, what I'm going to do is take a little bit of just plain orange paint. This is Blazing Orange from Citadel. Put that into the next pot over and add a little bit of the weathering powder to it. Then what I'm going to do is start sponging it on once these have dried off. We'll come back and see how that effect looks. Now that's done, I've put the stars in place on the vehicle as well as the last of the track pieces. What I've done now is I've put a bit of AK's rust streaks, not that it'll focus, and winter streaking grime in a paint pot. What I'm going to do is start applying them to the surface of this tank. The winter streaking grime will go on first, and it's going to go around these areas to represent a bit of a greasy feel. Now the way this paint is designed, it'll actually flow. Now I am loading up with quite a bit. Normally I wouldn't go this heavy, but It's easy to take it back if you do put on too much, which is handy. Now I'm swapping over to the rust. You'll find that it flows pretty smoothly and evenly around the rivets, thanks to the light coat of semi-gloss varnish I have applied to the vehicle. And yes, I am doing this left-handed. Yes, I am ambidextrous. The one downside of doing a tutorial is you're constantly working around the camera, so oops. Light can get in the way, the camera itself gets in the way, it can be very frustrating. Thankfully, with a coat of varnish on, if you accidentally slip like I just did, you can wipe it off the surface before it dries. What I like to do is do a couple of panels at once, because it does take a little bit for the enamels to dry. So while I'm waiting for them to dry, I just keep going with the rest of the vehicle. This process will take a very long time to do over the whole vehicle. Every single nut and rivet and panel line on the tank. But the effect is well worth it in the end. Put a bit more of this winter streaking grime on this front wheel hub. And I'm going to put a little just around the lower edges of the Chaos Star. Alright, I also have some AK white spirits in a little palette next to me. What I'm going to do is just moisten brush in that. I'm using a flat brush here, and I'm also going to mostly dry it off. What I'm going to do, and I'll just move the camera into a better viewing position for this. is start to pull at the areas that I've done. Like so. Now the more I pull at it, the stronger this effect will get. Just trying to prop the camera to a good viewing position. Now this is the roughest way possible of doing this technique. You can see that it's very messy. What I do now is clean my brush, dry off most of the spirits, and try and be a little more targeted. Trick is to constantly keep drying your brush. That way the pigments don't build up on the brush and you don't keep spreading colour over the entire panel. See, it's quite strong here, so I'm just going to work away at it. Until I'm happy. How simple is that? Anywhere you think it's too built up, just again work away at it with the brush and take off a bit of that grime. What I'm going to do is apply rust effects, more of it, because I want to bring out some more orange into these tones, and I'm going to continue this effect over the entire tank. So what does 2 hours of painting a tank with these AK streaking pigments give you? Gives you this. Up close, let's have a look at some of this detail here. Once the camera focuses in. So you can see we have the Use a pointing tool to help make this easier. We have the rusty streaks all coming off rivets. We have the greasy, grimier streaks, which are actually more of a green tint. It's a bit hard to see in this light. We also have the Chaos Star itself and all the area around it. It looks like rusted, pitted, corroded, where they've etched away the Imperial Eagles. Up on top, see that the streaking isn't really anywhere near as strong. I've mainly used it just as a wash. Let it pool around a couple of the rivets here, rather than being a pin wash, just to add a bit of depth to it. You don't want everything to be identical. Pretty strong focus as well around areas like the cupola hatch. Come on, camera. There we go. You can see that it's nice and strong around that, and even down onto the main gun itself. Looks nice, oily, burnished. So I'm very happy with how that's come out. Over onto the other side, again, it's more of the same chaos icons, same streaking, all down with the rust. Another chaos icon over the etched away Imperial Eagle. We've got the rusty track links up here, and we've even got rust on a couple of the barrels at the back and onto the exhaust and tailpipes. Overall, I'm extremely happy with how it's coming along so far, and I think that my personal opinion is I am liking these AK rust streaking streaking grime, etc., more than the traditional oils I've been using. So I think I'm going to try them more. I'm pretty happy with them. I hope this tutorial's been useful to you. I know it's a shorter one, but that's because the next one we're going to look at weathering powders, and I do want to keep them as distinct tutorials so that people can look for exactly the tutorial that suits their needs, rather than trying to find a single tutorial that tells them everything at once.